District two.
District two present?
District three.
Present.
District four. District five.
Present.
District six. Present. District seven. District eight. District nine.
Present.
District 10.
Present.
District 11. District 12. District 13.
Present.
District 14. And place 15.
I'm here.
You have quorum, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Morning, Commissioners. Today is Thursday, August 17th, 9:08 a.m. This is the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. As always, Commissioners, it's the time to ask questions of staff. We'll leave all our concerns and comments for the report sheet at 12:30. We're going to jump right into the agenda, which I don't have. I believe we're starting out with Ms. Foreman, who has a quick announcement for us.
I do. I'm going to introduce two new planners. We've got Sheila and Taspia Zahi. It was right up to speak, but I think it's the first day, so. Good morning. Welcome.
Welcome on board. We all look forward to working with you, and just one quick note, that when you present for us, it helps if you tell the commission that your mother's online watching. Once.
Actually, I'm going to announce as well, the zoning team is gonna have a few new senior planners joining us, over the next month or so. Our first one started, with us last Wednesday. It's Gianna Bridges. Gianna is joining us from Development Services. She was previously reporting to the Board of Adjustment. She's ready to.
Welcome on board.
Thank you.
Ms. Blue, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Morning. First page, in picture 3, that's 012. It is a request to obtain relief from street facing frontage requirements per section 51P 317, 120, C47. It is in PD 317, sub area area 3, which is the Cedar Area Special Purpose District, and sub area 3 is called out as a freeway oriented high density. Area request is 6.7577 acres and is in Council District 2. It's located on the southeast corner of Corinth and Cornell Street. Here is section 120 in detail. So City Plan Commission, City Plan Commission may approve a site plan at a public hearing that does not comply with the required street frontage regulations in this section. In this chart, I have the code and then I also have the applicant's response. And so number 1 states that street compliance with street frontage requirements are impractical due to site constraints and would result in a substantial hardship. The applicant will find that relief of the street frontage requirements along Cornell does not create a hardship. Variation exception of the street frontage requirements will adversely affect surrounding properties. The applicant's response is that the exception of the street frontage requirements will not affect the surrounding property since there's only an existing dark rail still. And number 3 states that the site plan must further state the purpose of the district. The applicant's response is that their application does state this. And so the purpose of the district is to encourage high density office, lodging, retail, residential use along the Interstate Highway 30 frontage and to encourage developments that take advantage of the regional freeway access and the excellent downtown view, preserving these views for other sub-districts in the Cedar area special purposes. Here is the request in detail. The purpose of this request is to obtain city plan commission approval for relief from street frontage requirements for the full 70%. Therefore, 0% of the required 70% of the street facing facade would be required to be within the 5 to 8 feet min-max front yard along Parnell Street. Here's some additional supporting items for the request. Parnell Street is adjacent to a busy dark rail. There's no ingress or egress proposed along Parnell Street. In 1992, Parnell Street east of Parker Street was closed, creating a dead end at Parker Street. And currently there's signage, no left turn, that does not allow access to Parnell Street from Parker. And then Parker is also like a remnants of a street because it only runs 402 feet and a few bits of change. This is looking at the numbers for the length of the street. So frontage along Parnell Street runs 412 feet. The 70 feet requirement, if it was met, would have to be at 288 feet. Right now, the proposed design is meeting 0 and 0 of the min-max. And then outside of the min-max of the 70%, it needs to be 123 feet. Right now, the property is meeting at 100%, 412 feet outside of the min-max. And so the applicant is requesting the full 70% relief. Here's an area view showing the dark rail in yellow and then also the property highlighted in red. Here is their site plan showing the area of request. The building along Point Street had to be cut off. They did have some percentage because of the visibility triangle. The building had to be out of the visibility triangle, sorry. So right now they're at 0% below the min-max. Here's an enlarged site plan. Here's some pictures. Right here, this first picture is at the corner of Corinth and Parnell, kind of looking east. This other picture at the bottom is at the corner of Parnell and Parker, looking west. Here's some pictures of the DART train passing by along Parnell Street. And then this other picture at the rear is the corner at Parker and Parnell, where the street dead ends. Here's some additional pictures. I wanted to put these in here to let you know that the east side of Parnell is already been closed, and so this is how it looked actually on site. Staff recommendation will be approval, but subject to site plans.
Thank you very much. Ms. Blue, questions? Commissioner Hampton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Blue, for the great case report. It was really helpful. To confirm, they're meeting the full requirements along both Botham Jean and Corinth, which are the, I guess, the primary pedestrian access streets for the site. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's a leave out on the back corner of the site. It's not part of this property. Is that a DART maintenance facility?
At the east corner,
Yes, ma'am.
the little cutout, I'm not for sure if it's DART's property or not.
Okay, we may be able to ask the applicant that. And then the long part, I know the site plan that we're looking at, those are garage access points for the new development. Is that correct?
Yes.
So there's no residences that are fronting?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're required to meet Article 10, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Young.
Could you go back to the slide right before the site? An aerial that shows the street system.
Sorry, I closed it out.
Sorry.
So the area view,
Now,
okay.
when it comes up on the screen, could you show us where the currently open part of Parnell is and where the closed part is?
So right now, Parnell along,
We're.
yeah, let's check it too. Oh,
We can't see the screen. Line.
share? Okay, let me go back. I'm sorry. I do apologize.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay,
Question was about the
the
open and closed parts of Parnell.
Yes, sir. So can y'all see my mouse?
Just barely be, yes.
Okay, so right here along the property that's highlighted, all the way to, Parker Street, this Parker Street that runs perpendicular. And so this portion is open, and then once you get to the east, southeast of Parnell, then it's closed at this building down.
Okay. So that last little bit with the arrow on the end of it is the closed part.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Do you want it?
Commissioner Sanders.
And using this, I just want to make sure I understand something. So the drive-through, I assume that there's going to be a drive-through, right?
Yes, ma'am, to get to the rear parking garage, the private garages, we go to the site plan. Or the drive-through of,
So does the drive-through go parallel to Parnell?
yes, it runs parallel, yes, ma'am. And there's no way to get in and off the property along. Parnell.
Along Parnell?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So they come in at Botham and then Botham G and then go around?
Actually, there's a drive approach at Parker,
Oh, I see where it is.
yes, ma'am. And then come around to their units and come back around.
And where do they go out? Down,
Back at
down at Parker. They
Yes,
go down the same way. That was what I couldn't understand. Got it. Thanks.
Sure.
I just want to confirm, there's a DART station maybe a quarter mile away, right?
Yes.
Okay. Somewhere, maybe even less.
Yeah.
But Parnell does not go all the way to the DART station, right?
I do not believe so.
Okay. So to get to the DART station from this development, you need to go to Botham John, walk up, and then go cut back to the DART station, right?
Yes.
Just one more general question coming from someone who's not a design professional. Are there best practices for designing when you're adjacent to a rail line like this in terms of proximity, whether it's close setback, considerably further or closer?
I think the PD regulates the setbacks for the property, but as far as design standards, I think the best thing to do is make the tenants comfortable, so find some kind of way to design it to, alleviate the noise from the train coming in and out. So maybe some kind of screening or something like that, but that's just my opinion.
Sure.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Popkin and Kingston joined us at 9:15 a.m. Good morning. On to case number 2.
Sorry if I'm a little nervous today. So case number 2 is M223-021. It's a request for a minor amendment to existing development plan. It is on 29.10 acres. It is in Council District 13. And it is located in Plan Development District number 885. It's in sub-area A and partially sub-area B. I'll show that when we get to the area. It's located on the west side of Midway Road, south of Lyndon Johnson Freeway. The purpose of the request is to amend the existing development plan to allow for the expansion of a health center and the reconfiguration of parking. So the applicant is requesting to construct a health center that's about 5,500 square feet And with this increase, it will increase the square footage of the existing general merchandise store. Existing right now, they had 190,000, and so it's gonna bring it to 190,500. And then also, they're gonna reconfigure some of the parking to actually get the health center, on the site. And so they're gonna go from, 692 spaces to 672 spaces. I crunched the number, and it does meet compliance for the retail space at 652 spaces required and 672 spaces provided on the site. Here's the area view of the property showing sub-area A, and as I stated earlier, sub-area B, half of the structure of the retail store, the Walmart store, is actually in sub-area B as well. And then we have surrounding properties to the west, we have TH2, south we have a R10 residential, east we have a CR, and then a DA, which is a duplex. Here's the existing development plan. Here's the enlarged development plan with the area of request highlighted here. Here is the proposed development plan. And here is the proposed development plan, with the area of request shown here. Staff recommendation is approval, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much. Questions, Commissioner Stan?
Yes. I have a question, but I also have, I think there might need to be a correction on this. On page 2, in the paragraph after reviewing, I think it was meant to say possibly significantly not sufficient. You see that wording. You can do that later, but here's my question. I'm just curious about something since it's in my area. And I see that we have another case. Is this gonna be a Walmart sponsored health clinic? Do you know?
Well, when I asked the applicant,
He's shaking his head, so.
So that's the
He can't
best.
speak for Jackie.
so I did ask, was it a health center as far as retail health center to sell items, or is there gonna be actually a medical clinic going into the space? And so I was informed that there's a medical clinic going in, and they will have doctors on staff.
Yeah, I just was wondering if it was, I was just curious if it was a separate, like we have those minute clinics or, you know, that are separate entities, or if it was the Walmart sort of sponsor. That's what I was curious about. You know, if Walmart was getting in the business, because I saw there was another one of having sponsoring health clinics. So anyway, thank you for your work. Definitely.
Any other questions, Commissioners? Commissioner Hampton?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Blue, I apologize. I don't think I heard you say this. There's existing street facade trees, or site facade trees, I should say, shown. Those are being removed with the new plan. Is the plan still compliant with Article 10?
Yes, ma'am, I had the arborist look at it, and it's still in compliance with Article 10. Yes,
Okay,
it's,
so they're not required to put those two trees back anywhere with this new expansion or addition?
no, ma'am, not that I know of. As long as they meet Article 10 standards for permit, they should be fine.
Thank you, Ms. Blue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, so we'll go to case number 3.
Oh, this is me.
Read, another Walmart.
Case number 3, M223-022. It is a request for a minor amendment to the existing development plan. It is at 26.89 acres. The area request is in Council District 4, and it's located in Plan Development District number 863. It is located on the southwest corner of Sharp Boulevard and R.L. Thurman Service Road. Here's the request in detail. The purpose of this request is to amend the existing development plan to allow for a health center, retail expansion, and then also the reconfiguration of parking. Here's the request with a couple square footage, just so you can see. So there's gonna be a auto pickup expansion that's gonna go around 6,300 square feet. The health center expansion is gonna be 5,500 square feet. So this also would increase the floor area for the Walmart. Right now, we're looking at 191,882, and it's gonna bring it to 203 and some change. The reconfiguration of parking is gonna go from 854 spaces to 799. This also meets the requirement at 679 spaces required and 799 spaces on site. Here is the area view of the property and surrounding zoning districts. Along the west boundary, we have CS and MC1, and then north, we have MC1 as well. And then along the east boundary, we have the highway running. Here's the existing development plan. Here's the existing development plan showing the area of request. Here's the proposed development plan, and then also the proposed development plan showing the area of request with the health center on the east side of the building, and then the west side, they're gonna have the auto pickup, and then also reconfigure some of the parking to have the drive-in parking to pick up orders. And staff recommendation for this is approval.
Thank you, Ms. Blue, Commissioner. Blair?
Can you go back to number, page 11? Page
11?
Okay, can you make it a little bit different?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
Is it page 11?
no, that's it.
Oh, 11 is something I had, that's 12, the 11 is the final page. So was it one of the
The other one, make it 7, it says 7 now.
7, this one?
Yeah.
That's the existing?
No.
One before, 6?
Yeah, that one.
Okay,
Okay,
let me enlarge it.
now it's. Okay, so, so the health center is on the northeast side of the building. And on the west side, what are you doing on that west side?
It's for art pickup, so if you order something within the store, you can
Oh,
order it.
okay.
So it's. They sort of.
I know this more definitely. So both you have two areas of impact, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so on the, and I didn't quite appreciate, and I apologize, on the area, on the section that the order pickup, are you increasing it? What changes are you?
This is increased into, 63.
Okay, so,
Yes, ma'am.
so order pickup expansion is going to 6,300 square feet.
Yes, so, and
Does it increase the number of parking space in that area for people to drive in and pick up and?
so when I did the calculations for the parking, the way the code reads it out is per the total area of the square footage of the Walmart. So I just did that and divided, I think it was by 200 or whatever the number was. I think I put it in the case report, and so that's how I came up with the number.
So,
From what the applicant have.
well, I guess I can ask at the hearing whether they're increasing the numbers of parking spaces at the area of pickup. Okay, and I know that and so, although you're saying that the number of spaces allowed is still appropriate?
Yes, ma'am.
So you're saying that they're required to have 679 spaces in that whole parking? Okay.
B. Any other questions? Commissioner Stanton? Please, Commissioner Stanton?
Okay, I didn't mean to talk amongst ourselves, apologize.
Okay.
Just following up, just again out of curiosity, because I am a very person about functionality. Can we go back to that picture? That, I guess, page 9. Well, it's hard to tell what it is, okay. So I'm just curious, on the pickup, is it just drive-through and the person runs out with what you picked up?
I think there's actually, you park, there's sign and you pick a number when you park and then they come and bring out.
They bring that.
Okay, so those are the parking spaces next to, so they have put parking spaces next to the pickup area.
Yes,
So they've just moved some there. I got what you're saying.
I think they were this and they're gonna restripe and put sign up so that way when you come and pick up
I
your.
was just curious how that worked when you at first said there are no additional ones, but they are providing them at that location. Okay, got it, thanks.
Any other questions on this item, commissioners? Okay, we'll keep moving. Thank you very much, Ms. Blue.
Thank you.
Commissioners, case number 4 will be held under advisement of September 21st. I believe we briefed that before, so we'll go to case number 5, and let's go ahead and have a briefing on this one. Please, interesting.
Okay, I know that number 4 is being held over. May I ask a technical
Of
question?
course, please.
Okay, I have a technical question. I suppose this is for, Dr. Durham. How do you define cluster housing?
It's for code, it's a zoning, it's for code, it's a zoning catch, it's a zoning district for code.
Well, I couldn't see, I have a page that said cluster, but there wasn't much about it. What qualifies as cluster housing? Do you know offhand?
No, I don't, but I see Daniel pulling up the big book, so,
Yes.
and I don't have my laptop here.
It doesn't really have any form regulations, just a certain density of mixed
Right.
single and multifamily.
Yeah, it said 18, if I remember correctly. And I guess the reason I'm bringing it up, when this is dealt with, held over, is there a possibility that this could qualify for cluster housing? I wanted.
Zoning district, I think it has some minimum square foot or minimum lot requirement, I remember. That's why it doesn't work, so.
Yes, it has to be. Okay, do you have that? Does it say what it implies?
Yeah. Over.
Well, but what is the definition and the requirements of cluster housing?
The purpose is to provide for the development of protection areas and moderate density housing with flexibility to allow common use.
So if it allows for big open lands to be conserved, you can put all the houses together and preserve some of that land, they'll consider it one house.
So you can't cluster the houses and have the land around it.
You can.
What's the big one?
My line is cluster home.
So, why couldn't you say that 9 clustered homes and then the area around it is the focus?
Not that much area.
Well, did it say? It didn't say.
Exactly. So that's a minimum size.
This is 1.6. Okay, thank you. I was trying, thank you very much for that.
Very creative. Okay, we'll go to case number 5. Mr. Mulkey, morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Item 5 is Z212-354. The request is for a TH3A townhouse subdistrict on properties owned in R5A single family subdistrict within Plan Development District number 595, the South Dallas Fair Park Special Purpose District. It's located on the southeast line of Sydney Street, northeast of Second Avenue, and it's about 7,100 square feet. Location map showing the property in city limits. Aerial map with the request area outlined in blue. Zoning map with surrounding districts and land uses. So to the northeast are some single family uses as well as some undeveloped lots. Southeast, more single family, and a little further out on the other side of Hancock Street is a church. To the southwest are single-family uses, more single-family to the northwest, as well as several undeveloped lots on the other side of Sydney Street. And then further out toward LCJ Hagan's undeveloped lots. And then as we move a little further southwest, down to Second Avenue, zone the community commercial district within PD 595, we have some typical retail uses, general merchandise, as well as an alcoholic beverage establishment. So some background, this is currently zoned an R5A sub-district within PD 595, and it is undeveloped. The applicant proposes to develop the property with residential uses, and to allow for this, they're requesting a TH3A sub-district, which would allow both single-family and duplex uses. In addition to this request, the applicant has also volunteered deed restrictions that would limit the property to a maximum of 2 dwelling units, restrict the maximum height to 30 feet, restrict maximum lot coverage to 45%, and require a 20-foot front yard on Sydney Street. This is being volunteered in an effort to ensure the proposed use complies with the development standards of the adjacent R5A lots. Some site photos. This is on Sydney Street looking southeast at the front of the property. And then we're kind of going in a counterclockwise direction along Sydney Street. This is north of the looking further down Sydney. You can see some of these vacant R5A lots on the other side of the street. And then further down towards Second Avenue, you can see some existing single uses. Some single-family homes under construction as well on the other side of Sydney Street, further down towards that. And these are the development standards of the existing R5A sub-district as well as the proposed TH3A sub-district, and I also included a row for how the development standards would be restricted with those volunteer deed restrictions. So typically in the TH3A district, there will not be any front yard setback. However, due to block-based continuity, the more restrictive front setback of all these zoning districts block-based would apply. So the 20-foot front yard of the adjacent R5A lots would apply to this TH3A lot. And then again, the deed restrictions are just reinforcing that 20-foot front yard. Another thing deed restrictions are doing, limiting the maximum dwelling units down to a maximum of 2. The height in the base TH3A district would be 36 feet. However, they are restricting that to 30 feet to comply with the R5A lots. Also doing something similar with the lot coverage, and usually do 60%, but they're restricting it down to 45%. With that, staff's recommendation is approval, subject to deed restriction volunteered by the applicant, and time and available for questions.
Any questions, Mr. Young?
Do you know if this is currently 1 lot or 2?
I believe it's 1 lot. I can go back to it.
Okay, I look at the vicinity map and I see a line horizontally through the middle of the property. But then I look at the aerial map and it's single tax parcel.
You mean this parcel line right here, the yellow line?
Yeah, that's a single parcel. You know, you have the vicinity map. Slide. Well, in any event, as far as you know, the applicant contemplates a single lot.
Correct. They do not plan to resell.
All right.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler.
Wasn't this item previously denied for a duplex?
That's correct. This request was previously before the commission as a duplex district. It was recommended for denial by the commission and then appealed by the applicant, and then remanded to City Planning Commission by City Council. And since then, the requests have been revised to that TH3A sub-district with deed restrictions to kind of be in line with some other sort of gentle density cases we've seen in District 7 and a few other districts.
But this is pretty much the same application, just a different. The applicant is still wanting the same thing, just putting deed restrictions, but was it also, How about the width of that particular street? Is it narrow? Pretty narrow?
It was the street, 86 feet of the
Was it narrow when you went back in the street?
Yeah, there was on-street parking, in front of this lot and adjacent lots. And I can go back to the site photos. It is a fairly narrow street. That kind of is a good photo of the width of the street.
And then we also, one of the reasons for denial last time was because it's spot zone. It is somewhat, not spot zone. What was Commissioner Young?
Spot zoning is a legal term of art that has a specific meaning, and I would try to avoid that because only a court can determine whether or not it's a spot zoning.
So is it a mid-block, one lot zone?
So the reason for denial, I explained it at council, was because the front yard for duplex is bigger than the front yard for the R5, so therefore the houses and the rest of the lots will kind of like lose some of their development rights. And I think immediately adjacent, there's already a house that's built a little bit closer for their front yard. So that's why when it's duplex mid-block, we need to be very careful because of the block-based continuity.
So I recall that there was multiple reasons for that denial, but it wasn't just that, there was multiple reasons. It was a denial. I recommended the denial right along with staff. All right.
Yeah, to kind of piggyback up on Andrea's comments, that's one of the reasons the revised request is for a TH3A sub-district. The base TH3A district does not have a front yard, it has a 0-foot front yard. So it would not impose an additional 5 feet that a duplex district would on those adjacent R5A lots. Rather, with this revised request, the R5A lots are imposing their 20-foot front yard on the TH3A lot. That would be in code under the block-based continuity condition. And then in addition to that, just to ensure a little bit more comfortability, the applicant has volunteered a restriction that, specifically imposes a 20-foot front yard on this lot, just to absolutely ensure through block-based continuity and the deed restrictions, that front yard is maintained.
Mr.
Yes, following up on that, I'm just curious, because I remember Andrea explaining this before. But basically, why would you not use TH1 or TH2? Why have you ended up that it's TH3 and then you do all of the deed restrictions? Is there something different about the setback from TH3?
There's a question.
Okay.
We have TH1, 2, and 3, and between all three TH districts, the only difference in terms of development standards is density. Everything else is exactly the same, minimum lot size, 0-foot front yard setback, all that kind of stuff. In a TH3A district, you're allowed a maximum of 12 dwelling units per acre, and you can see on my table, I'm happy to zoom in on that.
So why do we do TH3?
The lot is about 7,100 square feet, and with a dwelling unit density of 12 dwelling units per acre, you need about an average of 3,600 square feet per dwelling unit to meet that density requirement. And being that the lot is 7,100 square feet, TH1 or TH2 would not allow for 2 dwelling units. In a TH1, it's a maximum of 6 units per acre, and then in 2, it's a maximum of 9 dwelling units per acre. So the average square footage you would need per dwelling unit in those districts would be too much in order to put 2 dwelling units on them. When we only need 3,600 square feet average, you can do 2
So
units.
you
and still be
did
on
it
some-
to get a smaller requirement for size of the dwelling unit.
Mhm.
Not to get more of them, but to get a smaller size and accommodate for the 2. And that kind of makes sense, because I did not get that before.
Right, right. And then again, to sort of complement that, just like with the front yard setback, you can see here on the table with the deed restrictions, under base code, it's very likely that they can only get a maximum of 2 dwelling units on the site because of that base dwelling unit density. But again, to ensure a little bit more comfortability, they are limiting the property to a maximum of 2 dwelling units. It would probably happen anyway, but the deed restrictions just.
Are very specific. Okay, no, that does ensure, okay. Hey, 2 other questions, that really helped, because then in the future, we can understand that. 2 other, I mean, actually 3 other questions. Okay, just quickly, is gentle density now a code term, or is that a planner's term? I'm just curious.
Then it's missing middle, we're just
Yeah.
like,
Okay, so we're talking sort of infill kind of thing.
Right, the kind of like, there's not a code term for any of this in
Okay.
our code, it's not typically something you would find in a development code. The sort of like industry standard term, if you go to a planning conference and you hear people throwing around buzzwords, it's
Okay.
missing middle. Gentle density was a phrase that I didn't hear before I came here, but I do like it as kind of a.
Okay, if I heard missing middle with WCAP one more time, it just goes in.
So no, learning or planning, the missing middle can mean anything which can also mean a higher density.
Correct.
And gentle density, just to like explain that we're talking about this.
Yeah, not something suddenly a huge apartment house in the middle of the road.
And then another term you'll hear is context sensitivity, so I feel like gentle density kind of like encapsulates that.
I was just curious about that. Okay, going to that, I have 2 other questions, which are quick, which is this, have you asked the neighbors about this and what has been the response? And is this in the middle of the lot, not the corner? We have another case like this that was the corner. Is this the one that has single family?
So I can't answer your second question, this one is mid-block. Can't answer your first one, but the applicant will be here this afternoon to talk about the community.
Okay,
There was not the community, there was not community engagement. We talked to one person and he did not talk to the neighbors. The same thing we recommended last time for him to talk to the neighbors. He did not.
Commissioner Rubin?
Just a quick follow-up question on Commissioner Wheeler's question to Dr. Udrea. When you were referring to the reason for denial last time, you're talking about staff's rationale for recommending denial,
Yes.
right? And the sole reason was the
Yes.
block-based continuity issue.
Yes,
Okay. And the commission may have had other reasons for recommended denial,
yes,
but staff's one qualm with this was the block-based continuity issue. Great,
yes.
thanks.
Any other questions? Just one quick follow-up for Commissioner Standard question for you, Mr. Malcolm, just global question. When an applicant comes in and we're essentially having to do this kind of Jedi mind trick with the code to allow to even consider, what we're considering here, is that maybe a reflection of the age of our code or a code that doesn't take into account this kind of, density from, the 80s, late 80s?
Yeah, I would say yes. I always have to say this, it's just a funny little quip. Our code is 1 year older than I am. I don't think, in 1987, like I said, I wasn't alive then, but I don't think, we were having some of these discussions about, being in a housing crisis and really needing a lot more housing units than what we currently have and, how we're going to come up with solutions to address that issue. I'm gonna take a shot in the dark and say that in 1987, we were still very much in the mindset of detached single-family homes are sort of the highest and best use, in quotes, as far as residential is concerned. That's kind of what I can found upon there.
Doesn't this case boil down to a policy decision, of do we want duplex in the middle of a single family neighborhood or not?
Yeah, I would also kind of add to that, with a case like this, as well as the other sort of gentle density cases that we've had recently, I think it's important to kind of consider what values or goals or objectives are underpinning our dialogue about this, our decision-making. One of the values at play could be that, single-family neighborhoods need to be preserved as they are. I'm not making value judgments about that. I'm neutral. That's my job as city staff is to remain neutral, but that could be a value that's influencing decision making. Another value could be, like I said, we are having these sort of housing crises where we need to find ways to add more housing units to the city. That's another value that could be underpinning our decision making. I would also just suggest that those two values may not be in conflict with each other. There may be opportunities for middle ground and consensus and whatnot between those two values, or really any other kind of values that would influence decision making here.
I have a lot of other things to say, but they end with periods.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think we all have that.
So piggybacking off Commissioner John, we know we're in the middle of a housing crisis and that we also want to take the city family time. But are we also looking, when you're looking at replacement, and you're looking at other alternate, are we going, it's because it's become, it seems like even though I know what you're gonna say when I say this, case by case, instead of we just need to put it in. I mean, if you don't know, this applicant has two on the agenda today. And they're fairly close to each other. One is approval, and I mean, both of them are set for approval, one of them fits that approval better because of where it sits. So, would you believe, how do you, evaluate that both of them was for approval? When one actually can fit, we can see why, but this one, we denied it for a reason last time. And the reason is because of, it was, because of where it sat in the middle of the block. Part of it was we did look at last time the street. So, cause I think you were on board last time for some of those things.
So the question is, how did staff evaluate this case when the request itself was revised?
Yeah. So I don't know if I can include both of them. Can I speak about both of them at the same time? It's the same applicant.
No, it's just this one, the 2 and 2, 3, 5, 4 at this point.
Okay.
I can say how staff evaluated this differently than the request as it originally was proposed. Like Andrea said, one of staff's primary reasons for recommending denial last time was because of that block-based continuity issue. Duplex district would pose that problem within this area. Staff's recommendation on this revised request is different. We're recommending approval now with those deed restrictions because that issue has gone away. I think since the commission originally discussed this case versus now we're discussing it today, I think we've had a lot of discussions about this and developed some possible solutions. I have a case, I think it's going to council next week that the commission did recommend approval of. That was similar to this, that had some of those deed restrictions. I think there's been a lot of learning and growth throughout that timeline. And we can see that reflected in this. I think the applicant has done what they need to do to ensure greater compatibility with this proposal, with the surrounding area. So that's kind of what staff evaluated here.
So let me read that then, cause I'm almost sure that when we get before when we start the hearing, the applicant is gonna refer to one of those cases you're talking to and this particular case. The next case says yes. So we
Consider them separately.
So do we take this off the consent?
No, it's not. We should be on it.
No consent. I'm trying to make sure my brain is.
Oh, you're perfect.
But this.
But to your Commissioner Wheeler, if the applicant tries to mention both cases while we're considering one of the cases, Daniel will say the same thing to him that you just said.
Yeah. One at a time. Sure. And from this.
And I apologize if you can pass already, but
The staff consider the block differently than we do end of block in these types of cases.
In an abstract way, perhaps, in a more, pragmatic way. This is just kind of me, my professional opinion, I don't see any real substantive difference. I understand that a lot at the end of the block or at the corner, might be a little bit easier to sell, but, as you can see on these development standards, whether it's mid-block or corner or end of the block or whatever, I mean, the same kind of compatibility can still be guaranteed, through creative zoning solutions and deed restrictions and whatnot.
So on a more holistic level, and maybe something for future consideration, if we're going to continue to try to make our existing code fit infill housing, should there be consideration of a residential infill housing district?
I think that's a great point to make on the record for future discussions.
Again, just one out, I mean, we're seeing this, Commissioner Whipper said, I think at least one on all of our agendas. Seems to indicate we're trying to solve the problem with the tools we have, but we have options. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And yeah, I'll expound on that a little bit, so I'm using every question as an excuse to expound, but yes, I mean, this body considers a lot of different things, some of which are more long-range planning, some of which are more current planning. When the commission is considering individual zoning cases that are for authorized hearings or something like that, we are sort of by definition on a case-by-case basis. It is incremental in nature. However, I wouldn't be the manager of this section if I didn't think incremental change was important and that it led to bigger change over time.
Yeah, Commissioner Stegner, second round.
Yeah, my question, I was gonna ask the same thing Commissioner Hampton did, and then I was gonna go one step further. Not only the middle of the block, if that's a consideration, but, and you sort of spoke to this, your personal opinion, but can you look at something that's a duplex, other than the fact of the block face, and say, oh no, this is single family, this can't go there?
Professional opinion, not personal opinion. Yeah, it's really not, what staff's analysis involves, we may start with general impressions, general impression would be, oh, you're proposing a duplex on a single family block place. Well, I don't know how I feel about that, but that's not where we stop, and we hope that the commission does not stop with that general impression either. We dig into development standards, we dig into the possibility of deed restrictions or other tools that we have in our tool belt to hopefully arrive at some sort of solution.
And I do think, it's hard to put this in a question. I do think, going to what Commissioner Hampton said, if we can't use these discussions when these cases come up, and we keep get the same discussion to lead us to changing code and modifying it to fit today's time and today's needs, then it's a waste of time for us to have discussions. I think it should lead, to those things that, why are we considering duplex as a dirty word in the middle of a single family house? And I've got a block for me in Preston Hollow, and I think they're wonderful, but that's a comment.
That was great.
Don't you agree?
I really do truly think these discussions, although on a basic level, they are incremental, they are case by case. There is an opportunity with the commissioners, with staff, we had your case at August 3rd, where we had a speaker to someone in the community come out and offer all these wonderful solutions about transit ordinance and development. I think at the end of the day, this is case by case. We have to stick to these properties, but there is an opportunity for thought leadership. There is an opportunity for influencing. I hate that word so much; it's so overused. But there are opportunities.
Thank you, Commissioner Houserath.
Yes, Mr. Moulton, on your report, page 511, there's a great satellite photo of this neighborhood. And I was wondering if you had noticed that of the R5 lots depicted in that satellite photo, that half of them are vacant with no structures on them. And I was curious what conclusion you might draw from that. And the second part of before you answer, have you looked at Google Earth and clicked on date time, dates across the bottom, and noticed that in Google Earth, that it has been, as I described, for at least 25 years.
Yeah, I didn't do like a time lapse thing on this one. I had a case in District 5 at the end of last year that was also kind of a creative townhouse district solution. I did do time lapse on Street View on that one, and it had been vacant for like 10 or 15 years, you know, which can give us an indication of development patterns in the area.
One draw conclusions about the momentum of single family development from those observations.
One could possibly draw those conclusions.
Drew, go ahead.
Would you also say that in that area, the development is record and single family homes there or houses they built, in that area almost every day, with your single family house, you could also see on the opposite side of the city?
They rapidly build single.
There are records building single family homes in that area and for most of the areas surrounding it.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's sort of, both of these points are valid. You know, you can see further down the block in these street view images. So this image on the screen right now is directly across from the property we're talking about. You can see kind of to the northeast, those are vacant lots. Although, you know, you can see there were homes on them one day. They have these little, you know, stairways, stoops, whatever you want to call them. Let's go back to the other side of the street. Yeah, so this is one that, and these photos are about 6 months old. This case has been around for a minute, but yeah, these were homes that were under construction when I.
No, it's not really bad, because even though there are vacant lots in the area for about 25 years, that they're right to date, that they're rapidly building in the area, and the majority of single family, well, we'll see single family homes that they're building, and each you take to kind of answer the question, would you consider that the majority of those are owned by the city of Dallas in the land?
I'm not aware of the I will say though, any kind of by right development, I'm less aware of, because if someone wants to build something on a property that's allowed by right, they don't come to zoning because they don't need to. What we see, you know, we unfortunately have a backlog of about 70 cases right now. You know, I'm assigning these cases to folks. I have seen, since I became planning manager last November, I have seen in our backlog probably 15 requests for duplex, townhouse, I would say probably including townhouse and multifamily, probably more like 25 or 30. Duplex, townhouse, or multifamily, kind of this missing middle, gentle density kind of request be filed with our office.
So it's not talking about in that area, because you drove the area, am I correct?
I drove just the area surrounding this property.
And
That's what we
the
did.
development, I think you showed development on the other side, so city is kind of split because of a curve or something, how it splits. You showed a picture where.
Oh, yeah, it's kind of a weird planning situation with the right of way.
A while back.
Yeah, we did discuss that. Yeah, the lots and the streets here are, Sydney Street, I don't connected through here.
Yes.
Where it intersects with Hughes, so we got this, you know, kind of curve around.
But could you see single family homes being built on the other side?
When I did my site visit, I did
I
not,
think you showed one.
any of these.
You showed one on the other side of the city in the pictures.
Right, those were down here closer to Second Street.
No, I thought you, or maybe I'm wrong. I thought I saw one up on the construction. But yeah, you're fine.
Commissioner Rubin.
Just going back to the larger policy discussion, the city's retained a consultant to look at our entire development code and potentially suggest code changes, code reforms, correct?
Correct.
How would we make sure that these issues relating to missing middle housing, gentle density, whatever you want to call it, get included in that discussion so it can at least be considered when we look at that process?
making
Yeah.
excellent points on the record when we're discussing zoning cases is one way to do it.
We're gonna work close with them. The first, task, that we had for the consultant was to help us evaluate the current code and do a diagnosis and see what is actually being built, what is the code saying, why do we have so many zoning cases, why do we have so many PDs, why do we have so many deed restrictions, and where is the code lacking? So and as I said, I will say that every CPC meeting, housing is gonna be at the forefront of the code reform.
Do we have a timeline for when we expect to see that first work product from the consultant?
Not yet, we just kicked off, we had our first meeting with them, we're gonna have another one next week. We're gonna draw a timeline together with them, but the contract is for 2 years, so it's fast, it's gonna be fast.
Great, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Commissioner Anderson, morning.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Mulkey, thanks for the great work and great comments. Can you speak towards how the code renovations, and I say renovations to the code, will work versus the area plans? And because I'm trying to make sure that, or see if there's an attempt at having a comprehensive approach to these areas, as opposed to saying, there's been a lot of permits that have been issued for requests for duplexes or single family, and we think since there's a lot of them, we should put them here. I'm wondering, are we taking a comprehensive approach to looking at these communities and how they should be developed, versus just responding to, what the market is saying?
I will take this. Yes, that's why we were careful into launching this to stagger right out of Fort Dallas. So I think we're kind of like getting close with Fort Dallas and the future land use map. And then based on that, whatever area plans or authorized hearings will need to stem. And then we also have the code reform. So we're trying to set up the future of the city together with you.
Will those two efforts communicate with each other and work in parallel, or will it be a handoff?
Well, zoning is an implementation. Zoning and code development codes are implementation tools for plans. So that's what we're gonna follow. So if we're gonna agree, and it's an implementation tool for a comprehensive plan, but also for other plans that are voted in the city, like CCAP, the climate action plan, like the housing plan, Connect Dallas, our mobility plan. So again, the development code and zoning is one of the implementation tools for all these plans. So they will have, that's what we're aiming towards this code reform, because for instance, when we did Fort Dallas update last time, and then after we voted, the city council adopted climate action plan and housing plan, we need to follow with a code reform in some way to start implementing those plans on the land use side.
Well, I understand. I just thought that I had heard that the conversations for code reform will kind of begin to look at these housing typologies based on, permit applications and all that kind of stuff. And just wanted to make sure that, the code reforms would be a result of, or the execution of, the area plans and the other plans that we are working with.
Absolutely, and I will add that obviously it will involve community meetings and community engagement and community input.
Thank you, Dr. Andrea. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, let's keep moving. On to case number 6. I believe this one has not been briefed, right?
Okay, next is item 6, case C 223-113. The request is for a CS Commercial Service District on property known as NOA Neighborhood Office District. It's located on the west line of South Smith Street, south of West Jefferson Boulevard. It's about 1/2 acre. Location map showing the property within the city limits. Aerial map with the area request outlined in blue. It's these two yellow parcels here, and because we zone to the center line right away, it kind of extends to the middle of the highway. Zoning map with surrounding districts and land uses. Immediately to the north are undeveloped lots. Further north are single family uses. Other single family uses to the northeast, and then immediately east is a public parks and R75A. To the southeast is a church use, and then to the south are some undeveloped lots. Further south than that is an existing multifamily development, and then to the west across the highway is undeveloped. It's currently zoned in NOA district and it is undeveloped. The applicant proposes to develop the property with vehicle display, sales and service. And to accomplish this, they're requesting a CS district. I believe that's the first non-residential district that we have where that use is permitted by right. Some site photos. This is on South Smith Street, looking northwest at the frontage of the property. And just kind of going further down that street. Some more detailed views of that frontage. And then surrounding uses, this is to the south. At the rear of this lot is an existing church use, and you can see in the background some multi-family structures. And this is looking northeast at that park. And this is sort of the backside of the park, but as you move further east, there's a lot of recreational buildings and it's a pretty good park. And this is north of the site at Smith and Arcadia. We're going to see some of those single family homes. And this is west along Smith Street. You can see some of those undeveloped lots without building. These are the existing and proposed development standards. Kind of the major things to note here, there would be increase in height as well as a pretty significant increase in lot coverage. The big thing here is that the CS district allows greatly more intense uses than the current NOA district. The neighborhood office district essentially allows very small scale offices that would be appropriate next to residential districts, whereas CS allows commercial and business services, pretty heavy commercial use, as well as vehicle display sales and service. With that, staff's recommendation is given by Alderman. Questions?
Questions, Commissioner?
Could you help me with what I'll call the access geometry to this site? Clearly, the Walker off-ramp is northbound only, but is what's labeled the Walker service road, is that two ways?
Get back there. Yeah, I don't believe it's two ways. When I came to the site, it was from the north, and I came down Smith Street.
Do you know if the service road is access restricted? I note that none of the lots that are in that strip have access right now.
I don't know if David would know the answer to that question, if the service road here is access restricted for these lots along Smith.
You would not know unless they're showing this, what the survey shows. Typically, there's a control of access next up to something like that.
Okay, so would it be fair to say the probability this site will have to be accessed off of Smith Street?
That's my understanding, and there's a not insignificant grade change, I believe, at the rear of these lots, that would probably create some.
Now, if I'm looking at the map correctly, Smith Street does not extend all the way to Jefferson. It joins Walton Walker Service Road.
I believe so. I'd have to pull up.
So I guess the next question I'm coming into is that part of the service road two ways? How would I get from Jefferson Boulevard to this site?
Yeah, let me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hang on real quick.
Across from the car, Smith.
If you're running on Smith, that still leaves the question, how do I get there?
Yeah, you have to you have to take Smith from Walton, the only way
To go up and then turn right on Smith and go down. That's a convoluted way to get.
There's a VFW center there as well. They had
Oh, yeah.
There's a VFW.
Yeah,
center.
but how do they call it? That's on Walton Road.
And the other town, Smith, like make that.
Go up, turn right on Smith and go down.
Yeah, so I'll just kind of speak anecdotally. The way I got to this site was coming down from the north, like where Loop 12 and I-30 intersect. Was on Jefferson, coming from the west. If Google is to be believed, the access road here is only one way, headed to the north. If I recall correctly from my site visit, I had to go over this intersection here and then turn right onto this.
Okay, but I'm
residential
allowed to turn right and go south on that portion of the service road?
No.
You'd have to go onto Ira there, which is a residential street, and then take Ira to Arcadia to Smith Street. So you really have to go through the neighborhood to get to the site. And then, of course, when you're going out, you can go north on Smith, off on the business road. But that would be your exit.
Do we know what was really proposed?
This is a general zoning change, but they're proposing vehicle licenses.
Is that part of it?
Commissioner Wheeler.
What was the reason for stopping?
We feel that the current zoning district, if there's any non-residential district, that would be appropriate in this area, it would be neighborhood office or neighborhood services, which is sort of the retail equivalent of that. We do not believe that a CS district is appropriate for this site. We think it's way too intense. We also think the proposed use, although that's, it's a general zoning change, but the proposed use is not appropriate for this area.
Are you aware that, that in that area there's, especially on that, there are far lots, which you know, it was, well, from the Jefferson.
Yeah.
North majority of it is kind of scheduled, more far lots.
Yes, I'm aware that on the north side of Jefferson, like in this area, you can see even on Google here, there are several auto uses. If I recall correctly, this is all zoned to CS district. On the other side of the freeway, this is also zoned to CS district for the most part until you get into these residential lots. And there's several auto uses over there as well.
So you believe that this would be more of a,
The current zoning, yeah, we felt was appropriate. And you can see here, most of this is residential.
in the community, was any involvement from the community or not?
I have not received any emails or phone calls from surrounding residents as the case planner. And I'm not aware if the applicant did any community outreach.
Is there any area plans or any area plans in that area? Or
I don't believe so. Let me check my report real quick.
And no zoning response form.
Yeah, I don't believe this is an area of District 3 that has an adopted area.
Yeah. So there's a lot of car.
Any other questions on this item, Commissioners? Thanks. 10:21, let's take a 10-minute break. 8-minute break. Take it back at 10:30. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the biggest.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Right?
Good morning. This case is case number 7, which is Z223-178. This is an application for a new plan development district for MU3 mixed-use district uses and a vehicle display sales and service use on property zoned in MU3 mixed-use district. It is located on the north line of West Northwest Highway east of Shady Trail. It's approximately 1.64 acres. As I mentioned, it's on the west side of Dallas, northwest. So this is a 2-lot, 2-parcel request. Then adjacent uses around the area, there is a post office on the west, a prison service use on the east, medical clinic or ambulatory surgical center and office on the north, as well. On the north, there's also office, showroom, warehouse. On the south of Cross Northwest Highway, there's a commercial amusement inside, there's hotels, and there is a vacant parcel. Right on the west of the post office, there is a PD 776, which the uses are office, financial institution with drive-in window and vehicle display and sales service. The area is currently undeveloped and is zoned MU3 mixed-use district. The applicant is proposing to develop the property with a vehicle display sales and service use. The proposed use is not permitted under the MU3, thus the applicant is requesting a plan development district to allow the use by right. There is also a 15-foot wastewater easement here in the front line. Areas for the street buffer zone along West Northwest Highway. With hunting being prohibited within the easement, the design plan submitted on December 21 may not comply with Article 5. Therefore, the applicant proposes to redesign the layout to remove some parking stalls along West Northwest Highway for landscaping purposes to place the required trees at the north end of the landscape islands. And then the applicant intends to save an existing tree on the property and is proposing a provision to tree preservation on the plan development landscaping plans. So all the changes made to the reports in the last hearing are highlighted in yellow, and these are 2 items. So this is just photos of the side looking to the east, to the southwest, to the southeast, to the south, west, north, on West Northwest Highway, looking north towards the site, and then surrounding uses. So as I mentioned, the service drive looking east, on site looking south, on site looking southeast, toward the drive, looking west, toward the post office, and on Northwest Highway looking north, toward the site, and then on-site looking northwest, then on the service drive looking north. The proposed addition used as per the plan development is just the addition to the following additional main uses. It's permitted by right, which is the retail personal service use, vehicle display, sales and service. There are also, as I mentioned, for the landscaping, they are proposing, the applicant requests existing trees along the northern property line may not be removed unless deceased or due to natural death as confirmed by the director at the time of tree removal permit. However, staff is recommending is that trees on the property may not be removed except by a defense to prosecution or until an approved tree removal application or an issued building permit authorizes the removal. So thus, the building standards, they're all going to be the same as the existing Angus Street. And this is a development plan that they updated since the last hearing, and it's just them designing the landscaping items. And then there is an area plan, which is the benchmark Lake West Northwest Highway meets. Their request is within the Interstate 35 East District for commercial land uses rely on visibility and convenient access from Interstate 35 East. Land uses adjacent to this district are light industrial warehousing without residential uses. Therefore, the applicant's request is consistent with the urban design recommendation. And there's also the Trinity River Corridor Comprehensive Land Use Study. And the applicant's request is consistent with the goals and policies of the Trinity River Corridor Comprehensive Land Use Study. And then staff is recommending approval subject to development plan and staff recommended conditions.
Thank you very much. Questions, Commissioner Stan?
Yes, I'm curious about, your report said that they're only, what is the word? Having one existing tree, saving it. When I look at the pictures, I see some clusters of, on the edges of what looks like some big live oak trees. Why aren't those being
So
retained?
those are actually on the property north.
So there is only one large tree on their property?
There are, this pillar one, there are a number of trees that are on the property. Those trees, some of the trees are going to be removed to allow for the development. There's one tree identified on the property that we're talking about preserving on the property. There are other trees adjacent to this lot, which is not even subject to this ordinance.
But you're okay with the ones being removed, you said.
I'm certain for development, that would be standard. And the idea is that we preserve one tree on the site. The trees on the adjacent property should not.
Yeah, I understand. Okay. So there's only one you felt that could be preserved.
That's one that's been proposed.
Okay.
Sure.
Can we go back to the box condition real quick? And can you just, I'm not sure if I follow the difference. Can you explain to me in as simple terms as possible what the difference is here?
I'll try to think. Essentially, one is staff recommendations, essentially following along with our in standard. Okay. There's not much difference there at all. Code requires you to have a permit or building permit or building permit to be able to remove a tree on the property. Essentially, it's repeating ordinance. The second one is an intent to try to discuss preserving a number of trees on the north perimeter, but there's no tree survey identification to identify specifically what trees would be preserved. So it's difficult to try to enforce that.
Thank you.
You, Commissioner Hampton?
And one follow-up question is, should the tree that is intended to be preserved be indicated along the development plan? Or should landscape and the tree preservation be included?
It's possible to have a tree to be preserved on the development plan. It's not typical to have them on there, but if the tree is incidental to the design of the site, it could be applied there. There is no landscape plan proposed. It's Article 10. So if they wanted to preserve the tree, they could do it by plant, or they could do it by a separate text to specifically identify the tree in question.
Thank you. Thank you.
You. Commissioner Hampton, please.
Continuing on this tree issue, as I read it, the staff recommendation, if I want to take down a healthy tree on the northern property line, I can apply for a tree removal permit and mitigate. But under the applicant's request, unless it's diseased, I can't.
That is correct. However, it does not identify which trees we're talking about. As far as the trees along the northern perimeter. It's from my observations, there's one tree that would be indicated that's on the property that we're referring to. The other trees that were referenced are actually on the adjacent property, which would not be subject to this ordinance because it's on a separate property.
So you're saying existing trees along the northern property line probably means only one tree?
In this case, I believe it's one tree. Because there are trees that are actually trees adjacent to the south of this one tree that I'm referring to that will be removed for the development, but I could not be clear that this language is indicating those trees or not.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, keep going. Thank you, Ms. Garza. Go to case number 8, starting with you. That would be 7. Read it. Okay, I think you were not here the last time we reached it, right? But you were not here the last time we.
Yeah, but I don't need to be briefed.
Well,
I gotta be briefed on.
it has it.
It was, if we have a discussion.
You don't need to read it. Okay. Any questions on this item, commissioners?
Are we now, I'm still on 7 or?
We're on number 8. It has been briefed before, and Commissioner Wheeler is okay with another briefing. But if we have questions on it, happy to take questions on number 8. No, we'll keep
And
going.
this is the one that's the corner.
This is, yes. Okay, we'll go to number 9. Then,
Now that would be a reconsideration.
yes,
With some minor changes.
with minor changes, okay?
I can,
Please. Right. Ask a question about how this got back.
oh, we're sharing.
Yes.
Just submitted an email and
Hello, all. This is C 212-297. You have seen the briefing before. This would be a reconsideration if you choose to do so. But just to remind you, this is an application for a CS commercial service district. These restrictions volunteered by the applicant. The deed restrictions are the new part since it was last considered. And this is in Valley Ferry and LBJ. It's currently on 10. I'm gonna breeze through onto the, this is the location, but I'm gonna breeze on through to the deed restrictions in the interest of your time. So again, they have a CS base district, and that is the same as the previous iteration of this. But they have added deed restrictions that take out some of the more industrial uses. And I can answer a specific question about the entitlement of a certain right if you would like, but that is them. And that is the only change on the application and staff recommendations for denial. Based on the land use study for the area and the recommendation there, as well as the impacts, potential impacts on neighboring properties, and R10 being the most appropriate zone for the site. R10 being the current district. That's it.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Black.
Is it not, just to keep us, updated or refreshed, is this not, only going to be developing 7 acres opposed to the whole entire area? Is that not correct?
This the area request is 7 acres.
And is it not still that 26 acres will be, the applicant has donated 26 acres as a preservation area, a conservation area for, that will remain a green belt?
They have stated that, but it's not tied to zoning, so there's not a guarantee that will follow through if this case is approved. They're not linked in any way. That is handled later in the process.
Oh, okay, so please help me understand. If it would not be appropriate then to add it as a deed restriction, or are you saying that somewhere later in the process, they can volunteer this acreage as a conservation area?
Well, I mean, a couple things. City Attorney's Office is informing me we shouldn't put that in the deed restrictions, but
This question for only the 7 acres, we can't add it into.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. Thank you. I'm gonna keep going. If the applicant is restricting out, voluntarily restricting out all of the intensive CS uses, why is this not more appropriately a CR opposed to a CS?
that's a good question. You're right that the deed restrictions took them closer to a CR district or an S district. They didn't, on this go round, they didn't propose a specific use, so we didn't know what target we're shooting for potentially. Of course, that's just a proposed use, but it does let us know maybe what district would help. But what they've done with the deed restrictions, you're right, it takes it closer to the acting as a CR district. However, if the intent of this commission is to approve a district or, a less intense district using these restrictions, CR may be a more elegant way to do it, NS may be a more elegant way to do it without these restrictions.
So moving along that line of consideration, if we were looking at this 7 acres as a CR district opposed to a CS district, is it possible between now and the hearing that we have a side-by-side comparison? If I'm asking for too much, please tell me that too, because I'm not asking for you to do something real easy, or maybe it is, a comparison of CRCS with the deed restrictions.
Yes, and I'll be frank. I would have in the report had CR in the table there, but I got these deed restrictions at the 11th hour for posting. But I did want you to have these deed restrictions in y'all's hands and eyes. But I did not at that time to include a CR comparison. They're fairly similar, but I can get you a 1-for-1 by hearing time. It's plainly case.
Okay, so, because what I think it would be beneficial for, and I may be wrong, so if I am incorrect, can you please, still get my question in? Please let me know that comparison CS to CR would make it easier for the rest of the commissioners to understand what is actually, what opportunities for development is actually happening here, opposed to looking at a CS and looking at all of the red things that have been proposed to be restricted out.
Yes, I'm happy to make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Wheeler, followed by Commissioner Young.
Is there any particular reason that they restricted residential uses?
Why?
And what is the uses, the property?
What are you asking? Did they restrict residential uses?
You know why they did, these are deed restriction, right? Residential uses is deed restricted.
They did not deed restrict residential uses?
They did.
They put that in there, but there's really not many residential uses that are allowed in CS. I think it's in your, yeah, it's college dormitory,
Live work.
live work is not in the base code. So that's not gonna be, but there's really not many residential uses in CS or CR to start with, because it's a exclusionary commercial district. So why did they put that in there? It actually doesn't have much a major effect, because it's a CR, it's a CS district, and it doesn't have many residential uses baked in there anyway.
I just was wondering, as a deed restriction of. Okay,
I don't know why they did a lot of things they did.
Also, is there any way that can you show what those, go back to the map? Thank you.
Need your attention.
Okay, so what is that across the street? It look like it's some house, what is that across the street from?
Yeah,
Single family houses.
Single family homes?
That's right.
Okay, and then go back, stay on the map.
See if I can find an image, but it's pretty woody there. There's one of the homes across Ferry from there. So you can see wood. There's a residential trash can you can see, but she's correct.
So you got okay. So, and that's coming back after 20. Okay.
Yeah.
So what was there, did you ask the applicant what would probably be the proposed use?
In this round, they say retail, which could be a variety of things, but general merchandise stores when you cover them for general retail, but this is a general zoning change, so.
Did you recommend or even ask them about the CR feature?
I think it was brought before them. Staff is not looking at a CR. Staff would have recommended originally, actually, this was a long while ago in the first consideration of the case, recommended them look at an NSA district. But then we have documentation that they wanted to do warehousing, and that was in the first consideration, and then.
I believe that's how it started, actually, when they contacted me.
Yeah, because the reason that I'm asking you is that because of the proximity that's to 20 and to those single family homes and seeing, okay, all right.
Just for history purposes, it started out 2 years ago as a warehouse request. And when they realized that a warehouse, truck stop, or anything of that nature was not something that was going to be obtainable, this is how we got to this point.
Okay.
That is correct.
And that's just a brief synopsis of the history of where we are.
And they continued in the previous consideration with the CS, which is the least intense way they can do a warehouse. But then they provided different information after that point, and now we are reconsidering it as a CS with deed restriction.
And the CS with deed restrictions is it not correct? It's more appropriately looking to be a CR neighborhood services, but they still have the base zone. So if they ever wanted to do or come back as anything more industrially intense, it would only be a reconsideration of deed restrictions opposed to a full-blown zone.
Let me see. So if it's approved as CS with ER, it still needs a full zoning case and the full zoning process. Because determination or amendment of deed restrictions are still a full zoning case as we're working on right now. So I don't see it as making much of a difference in terms of the process later.
Okay.
It's still entitled.
Commissioner Young?
I have a number of procedural questions. You mentioned reconsideration. Have we voted on this particular zoning application before?
It was recommended denial on July 6th.
Okay, and
by y'all.
it hasn't gone to council yet?
It has not.
Okay, so it
It did not
require, first of all, a suspension of our rules Secondly, a motion for reconsideration. And thirdly, if those two things pass, then a new vote on the zoning case.
That is my understanding, yes.
Or we are not posted for either a motion to suspend the rules or a motion to reconsider. Can we take those up under the existing post?
The zoning case was, I know this is a long one, Commissioner Young, but the zoning case was advertised in the Dallas Morning News and resent notice to the property owner. So to advertise that CPC may consider the zoning case today. So it takes care of that. The question is about the agenda and
Yes.
the rule 4, section C2 and C6 can be suspended, which would allow this body to consider the reconsideration and the merits of the zoning case. Assuming the rules are suspended, the body moves to reconsider. You could do that today based on the existing post.
Under the open meetings record?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so on occasions in the past, where we have posted on the agenda suspension of rules and reconsideration, that was just out of an abundance of caution, that was not legally required.
That was required under Rule 4C6, which can be suspended.
So would we have to do 2 motions to suspend the rules?
I think it could be taken up in a single motion, just as long as it's clear that that the body is moving to suspend Rule 4C2 and C6. But then that question can be divided if the body chooses.
Okay. If I'm a member of the public, I don't know that those things are going to happen today from reading the agenda. Unless I study our rules and discern that that's the only way it can happen.
I suppose that is true.
Okay. My next question is, if I'm recalling correctly, and I've slept since we did 51A, CS has a height limit of 45 feet and CR has a height limit of 54 feet.
I'll take your word for it.
Then my next question is, can we consider CR on a posting and advertising for CS? Since it is more intense as to height.
If the height, sorry, I was gone, but if the height in the district that has not been noticed is greater than the height of the district that was noticed, then yes, it needs to be.
Then if my memory serves, it was noticed for a district that allows 45 feet. And perhaps a motion will be made to consider CR, which is a district that allows 54 feet. And that could not be done in the current post.
That is correct.
Okay.
You can consider NS, which is a lower height.
Okay, right. And my third set of questions relates to the deed restriction on allowable uses. You say, well, yes, they're allowable, but only by SUP. Can we do that?
So as you know, an applicant can volunteer any deed restrictions they want, but CPC's ability to recommend approval of an SUP derives from Chapter 51A. And because that SUP that SUP requirement doesn't come from Chapter 51A, CPC could not recommend approval of an SUP based on those deed restrictions.
So if we approve the case subject to the deed restrictions, I guess, are you saying that we could not do that in that instance?
Correct. Yeah, the deed restrictions is in the docket say that the following uses are allowed by SUP: general merchandise or food store, and less than 10,000 at motor vehicle.
If somebody made a motion to approve the case subject to that, you would say that, just a moment, Commissioner, we've got a problem here.
Correct.
Just to make sure we're clear, Commissioner, so the deed restriction cannot be enforceable by this body when it's set by deed restriction.
The deed restrictions that are allowing specific uses by SUP cannot be enforced.
Of which they included 2 uses. In what they volunteered, they included 2 uses, supposedly subject to SUP, but that's not feasible.
And not only cannot be enforced, but your advice would be cannot be accepted by the father.
Yes.
Commissioner Spence. Thank you. Commissioner Spence.
Okay, I just want to clarify something, because I'm looking at the comparison, CR and CS. Now, under CR, they could not have warehouses, because it says retail and personal services, correct?
Yeah, CR does not have warehouses.
So under CS, they can have warehouses, which is how they applied in the first place, basically. That's correct. So obviously, and one of the differences is there's 60% lot coverage on CR, there's 80% lot coverage on CS. And then Commissioner Young did the 54, 45 type differences. Right, but they couldn't do it either. Okay. So, and I just want to clarify one other thing. The deed restrictions in no way restricted them out of warehouse use.
The deed restrictions did restrict warehouses.
Is that the one that said they could do it by?
No, they removed warehousing use. Just for everyone's knowledge, the uses that they removed or they wanted to put subject to SUP were general merchandise or food store greater than 10,000 square feet and motor vehicle fueling station. Those are the ones that they wanted to peg to an SUP.
Okay, so right now they couldn't have warehouses.
Well, right now there are.
No, I'm talking about if we gave them the CS.
The current deed proposed for volunteer deed restrictions are warehousing.
Well, then there's such a list of what's being barred, what can they?
Yeah, it's in the report in a table. And generally that does look more similar to a CR. And that table's in the report, but to name
The warehouse. I don't see
some highlights, childcare facility remains, restaurant remains, bank, office, clinic, general merchandise or food store, general merchandise or food store,
It's just industrial uses, that's really not industrial uses.
dry cleaning. It's in the report. I don't wanna read, I don't wanna make it.
No, I guess my question is, it's difficult here when we've got this Prairie Creek area, we've got a land use plan, and yet we don't have any idea now that they've opted out of warehouse, what they're intending there, to be able to judge if it's in any way appropriate. So I guess that's why you've been for the denial, so thank you.
You're right. Anytime we have a general zoning change, we don't really know what use we have, but it's possible if we had a proposed use, we could pick a more appropriate category to pick the least intense district that would still accommodate the proposed use, but they didn't put one specific forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Treadway, followed by Commissioner Rubin.
Following up on Commissioner Young's. So, I guess procedurally, we denied this application on July 6th, or we denied the separate application.
It was this application.
So how was it before us? Did they appeal?
So under the rules, this is Rule 5B1 bullet point 2, any member can make a motion, ask that an item be reconsidered. So one of your colleagues has asked this item to be reconsidered.
That's on the prevailing side though. Any member that.
The prevailing side would be for the motion itself.
I got you, okay.
Can I just help them understand, Chair, why it's back here today? Is
I think it will
It-
answer Commissioner Treadway's
It will
question.
answer everybody's question, I think. But when we heard it on the 6th, the applicant was not present to answer any of our questions. So I was left with no choice because the applicant could not answer any questions and did not have any deed restrictions offered. And because warehousing was not something that was deemed appropriate for this site, that I denied it without prejudice because there was nothing else I could do. The applicant came in after the case was heard and denied. And after CPC, they asked me to reconsider the case and allow it to come back so that their voice could be heard. Then after that, they offered all the deed restrictions that you see to make it more palatable for that particular site, but it still is leaving a lot of questions for the commission and the residents. So we're here today.
Isn't that right, Mr. Beck?
Isn't that right?
Yes, that's right.
And
That's I guess from a procedural matter, could it not just have been held, did it have to be denied earlier?
The body could have held it, they.
But
Okay,
there was someone who spoke against it, so.
okay, that was my confusion. Okay.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes.
if I recall correctly, that we moved it later in the agenda when the applicant was not here.
That was, and I, like you, have slept since then, but no, there were two items where the applicant was a no-show, that hearing. The first one, they contacted us and said, hey, I'm having an issue with the parking or I'm on my way. So we tabled that one. This one, we all reached out to the applicant and we never heard anything. We emailed, texted, called. And then he showed up with his client, I think, 3 hours after we voted on it. It was like near the end of the hearing, he showed up.
It was a different case.
It was a different case that we tabled, yes. Commissioner Rubin, please.
I want to follow up on Commissioner Young and Commissioner Treadway's line of questioning about the reconsideration. I think Commissioner Young jumped into the weeds pretty quickly, which is great, but I wanted to talk at a little bit of higher level how we reconsider items. So Rule 4C is the only way that an item can be brought before us for reconsideration, right?
Yes.
And the motion for reconsideration authorized by Rule 4C has to be made by the next meeting, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that would have had to be made by our July 20th meeting, right? And posted on the agenda for that July 20th meeting?
Yes.
And was that motion for reconsideration made before or at our July 20th meeting?
That motion was not made.
And it wasn't posted. So if you're someone who's concerned about a zoning case, and you're happy with the result and you're worried it might be reconsidered, you're generally looking one meeting forward to see if it would be reconsidered, correct?
That sounds like a fair
Okay.
characterization.
And this was a denial, so a denial can be appealed to council, right?
Correct.
And a denial has to be appealed to council within 15 days, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So, and we're well past that 15 days for the appeal of the denial, right?
Yes.
And the applicant never did not file an appeal in this case, right?
I am not aware of it.
They did not. They did not, okay. So essentially, we're having to, if we want to consider this today, having to suspend a couple of different rules relating to a motion to reconsideration, when it can be brought and how it can be brought. Okay, thank you.
So one quick follow-up to Commissioner Rubin's question, I'll just ask the following. So that date then, how far does this body, what kind of leeway do we have? Essentially, we can reconsider any item before it gets to council the date you. So we're saying.
There is a provision in the code that says that between CPC and council can be no more than 6 months. So we don't have, there is no provision in the code that says, oh, if you vote on this CPC, you automatically go to this council. We have 6 months to schedule it. The only provision in the code that ties the applicant to something is if CPC recommends denial, then it kind of like stays there unless the applicant does something.
So would you, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, I was just gonna say, that because our rules require that window that it has to be at the next meeting, but then we can suspend that rule. That means that in theory, we can put it on the item, we can reconsider it up until it gets noticed for council or until it gets heard by council. And once it is noticed by council, that means
Or
that
up
it's-
until those 6 months pass, I would say.
I would think at a certain, the item becomes council's and council's exclusively unless it remands back to CPC. And I would think that point is once it's noticed
for council. Commissioner Young.
Mr. Pepe, how is it that this got on the agenda for today?
We were directed by the commissioner to reconsider, and so we did renotice it with the thought that we sent notice with the thought that if you were keeping up with the case and thought it was denied at the previous hearing,
And we're within 200 feet or however many hundred.
and
feet.
we're within the notice distance, but it was renoticed through the same noticing procedures of the original case.
Well, but I don't want to be accusatory by this, but our rules require that the motion to reconsider must be on an agenda that is publicly posted. You posted the item, but you did not post the reconsideration.
And I understand that, and that's what we were talking about it, if, is that a mistake or is an error in the posting or not, but, her attorney, for the rules, we can suspend.
Well, all right, the attorney's advice was it doesn't violate the Open Meetings Act. Take that advice. But it does violate our rules unless we go an extra step and suspend the rule that it violates. If I am a person interested in the case not within the notification area, and as Vice Chair Rubin has mentioned, I listen to the hearing, I hear it denied, I look at the agenda 2 weeks later and I'm relieved because there's nothing to reconsider it. I check to see if it's been appealed to council and it hasn't been. And I think, well, I can check that one off my list. How do I know about the action we are being asked to take today?
We complied with the notification, we put a notice in the paper.
But I said if somebody outside the notification area.
That's the news notice, that's the Dallas Morning News notice.
Okay, so I have to be reading the paper daily, or well, every Saturday, I guess it's Saturday. To know that what I thought was a resolved case is not a resolved case. Thank you.
Is it not true that the request to reconsider was actually asked the day of the hearing?
Verbally, yes, and then, we advise you to send an email, and we haven't, so we haven't arrived.
So if that is the case, and the rules say that it should have been. No, it should have been on the agenda, the next hearing, how come it was not?
So, I think you also said let's work on the data restrictions, so we kind of like decided not to be on the next one. And I would like Daniel to verify me on this. If it's on the next one, there's no requirement for notification, right? So we could have put it the next one without re-notifying, but we said, okay, because the applicant manifested the intent to have another community meeting and do the restrictions, we decided to a later date, that's why we notified to make sure that we.
So is
I
it,
didn't have notice to reconsider in writing until after the agenda was posted. This is the following agenda.
okay, so just to make sure that I'm correct, there was verbal request to reconsider. Then the written request was sent after it was sent on, it was noticed for the agenda, is that correct? And then the applicant sent in a plethora of the restrictions restricting out uses that required, a thorough reconsideration of what's been asked and not asked of, and under CS, is that not correct?
They submitted these deed restrictions, which are in a format that can be used by staff. I can tell you the date on August 8th in preparation for this hearing. So I didn't have deed restrictions until August 8th.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Standard, followed by Commissioner
Yes,
Tripp.
question, and I'm in no way questioning Commissioner Blair's judgment. I mean, the devil's advocate on this.
Please just,
I'm not, but this is what I'd like to know. Should we be concerned that this is going to set sort of a precedent for someone getting a second bite at the apple because the applicant doesn't show up the first time and can use that as an excuse to go to the commissioner and say, well, I wasn't there to answer the questions, I want a second bite? I mean, should we be concerned?
My answer to that is that is the commissioner who initiates the reconsideration. So if that decision lies with you, with one.
Yeah, because I just don't want to see, obviously, every time there's a denial, someone going and lobbying a commissioner, you know, over and over, trying to get it reheard because they didn't show up. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Tripp, oh, sorry,
I missed the question. But I'm not sure if it was directed.
It was
to me.
rhetorical.
I'll be frank, I didn't know. I know it was.
What you thought about it? I mean, you're a planner.
I think your question is in relation to the rules of the commission. So I won't try and speak to it.
Commissioner Tripp, please.
So, just to the procedural question, when we deny an item, does it automatically go to council or does it have to be appealed?
It has to be appealed.
Thank you, I had heard two different things.
Okay. One quick question for me before we get to Commissioner Rubin and Young and Wheeler. We're all looking at these deed restrictions, feverishly trying to figure out where the warehouse is. We thought it was under industrial uses, but it is not.
Yes,
Hold up, hold on. Did it get dropped in this?
I can see warehouse.
Is it not so?
That's what my
Fall under the wholesale prohibition of wholesale distribution and storage on the second page of these deed restrictions that not show up on.
If it's in the report and it will be, yes.
Thank you so much.
It's, you're not seeing warehouse because yes, it falls under, they submitted me restrictions that just said wholesale and storage uses, and that's one of them.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Rubin.
It says wholesale what?
It says wholesale distribution and storage uses, which is the category that works.
The whole.
There's a second.
You didn't miss it.
There's a page in the report, page 113.
Just one follow-up question for Mr. Morrison. There is a lot of discussion, or it appears that the body wants to debate whether to suspend the rules to actually take up this item for reconsideration. Is the motion to suspend the rules itself debatable?
A motion to suspend the rules is not debatable, and a motion to sort of suspend that rule or amend the rule to allow it to be debatable is not in order because it would be a subsidiary motion to the motion to suspend.
Okay, so moving forward, so the lesson learned is don't resist.
Okay, Commissioner Young, I'm fine. Please.
Very simple question. Last time we denied this, was it with or without prejudice?
It was with prejudice.
With prejudice.
Was it with or without?
Yes, it was.
Straight
It was with prejudice. There was no
It was a straight denial.
straight tonight. Mhm.
So they need to wait 2 years.
Or apply for a waiver under the new, if it feels like waiver, we waive it standard.
Commissioner Rubin, you had a follow-up.
That's a good point.
Supposed criteria.
So just to follow up, Mr. Moore, if we have any questions about this suspension of the rule, they need to be asked now as opposed to at the public hearing when that motion gets made.
You can ask, you can do, parliamentary inquiry and ask that now or during the public hearing.
Okay.
But to debate the motion would be out of order.
Okay.
It's a regular motion and there will be votes. Commissioner Wheeler, followed by Commissioner Carpenter.
I'm confused about my question.
Sorry.
I'm confused about my question at this point.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner Carpenter?
If the motion to suspend the rules fails, what's the path forward? It's dead.
The body would not be able to take it up today. I suppose that at a later date, you or one of your colleagues could ask that we reconsider it and we could try again. But, yeah. Yeah.
We go back to the denial of prejudice that was made.
Correct.
Okay. But again, go to city council.
I think that time. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler, followed by Commissioner Young.
But could they refile with the CR?
In 2 years.
Yeah.
Only in 2 years,
Yeah.
that's what we're saying, or if they apply for a waiver, they have an extra step to apply for a waiver. If the commission grants them a waiver, they can come earlier. If
Right.
not, they need to wait 2 years.
So if we request a motion, what was?
To reconsider. To suspend the rules.
If we vote again, if we vote to suspend the rules, well, we can send them back to, for CR, we can,
Only if those motions pass, and then you can reconsider the actual item.
right?
Yeah, so it would be a motion to suspend the rules, a motion to reconsider, and then on that final motion, you could move.
Becomes a
Let
zoning
me,
case.
let me add to that. If the first motion passes, you go to the second one. If the second one passes, then you reconsider.
That's the explanation.
Commissioner Young, please take the floor.
My head is starting to hurt.
Right here.
Don't imagine how Mr. Moore is feeling.
An interesting one.
State law says any public speakers on any agenda item.
Yes.
Since the motion to suspend the rules and the motion to reconsider are not on the agenda, are public speakers in order on those two motions?
Give me 1 second.
That's
a language should be open.
Sure.
It takes an attorney to figure that something and ask some question like that. Can we sit you outside? On the window ledge.
In a few weeks, you won't have to worry about it.
But then how are we gonna be entertained? Tim, are you gonna take up the chart?
Maybe I'll come and sit in the audience.
Have him on retainer.
Yes.
The language of the Open Meetings Act says that a member of the public who desires to address the body regarding this item on the agenda. So I think the item would be,
This
C 212-297.
So speakers would not be in order until we got to the third motion.
Yes, sir.
So if, for example, I wanted to ask the applicant representative, why were you not there before? I need to do that informally outside the public hearing.
That's correct.
And I can't debate the motion and tell my fellow commissioners what I heard.
You cannot debate the motion to suspend the rules.
Right.
But could he hear the commissioner one, he heard four.
That's what I wonder. Was he in the hospital or did he just not show?
Well, he, just to be clear, he did show, he showed 5 hours into the hearing. Commissioners, let's keep going. Item number 10 is going to be the lender advisement. There's the notification there. We're going to be briefing. And this is let the record reflect that Commissioner Young has a conflict and has stepped out and will now step back in. 21st, September 21st, our next hearing.
September 7th is our next hearing.
Okay, when is 114?
Yeah.
So for the 114, we will notify for the next one. You don't have an option to call for the meeting.
Oh, that's okay.
It's gonna be held still? It's not held, because we have a written notification and we will notify correctly for the next.
The 7th.
Yes.
Okay, so number 11. Commissioners, let's go to 13 and then we'll come back to number 11. Let's go to case number 13. And then Ms. Weimer is here. Yeah, we're keeping everybody on chill. We're gonna go 13 and then back on, order. We're gonna come back to, we're gonna come back to 11.
Yes. Thank you. Oh, the authorized. Yes. Did you instigate this?
Short thing.
Yeah.
Feels like a
Sure, just go with it.
Short thing, they want.
I'm sorry, Brandon. No, you're fine. It's the boss have to come. I know, he's facing Commissioner Young. He's got to deal with this. You know, back up, she can get.
Go ahead.
I said tomorrow.
But don't go.
Yeah, tomorrow after coffee.
Okay.
Mr. Young is Robert's rules. He's.
Oh, right.
Okay.
All right, thank you for your patience. I thought I had a few more minutes on deck. All right, so, I'm Megan, and this is my first time sharing with this commission in a while. I'm a veteran, but it's been several years, so I'm sure you guys can see hi. Yes. All right, so Z 189-241, this is an authorized hearing to determine proper zoning in an area that is predominantly zoned IR. There are some pockets of AU1, which happens to recent rezoning. And there is a PD 1081, which was also recently rezoned through private application after this area was authorized. The area is generally bounded by Singleton to the north, Border Street to the east, includes the southeast corner of Singleton Boulevard, and Border Street, the south side of Duluth Street on the south, and then a line running north-south, intersecting the terminus of Bedford Street and Duluth Street on the west. It's approximately 9 acres. To show you, it is West Dallas.
And this is the area in question. So along Singleton, there are non-residential uses, predominantly auto-related ones. There is a DISD maintenance facility, that's that largest piece of property that abuts Singleton on the west. There's a scattering of single-family homes and then many undeveloped lots that were previous single-family or never developed on small platted lots. So to the north, there's single-family. To the east of the property, there is new development, which is multifamily. There are also some mixed uses at street level as you go a little farther to the east. To the south, there's also a recently developed small lot single family development. And then to the west, there is so this area has been redeveloped with a lot of multifamily. So okay. So this is a city-initiated zoning change or authorized hearing. It was authorized by CPC in April of 2019. There were meetings held with the community in July 21st and then again on August 22nd towards the end of the process. In between those meetings, there were steering committee meetings held in February and May of 2022. As I said, currently zoned IR with a few MU1 lots and then the PB on the eastern portion of the authorized area. So PD 1081 was approved in 2022. Staff is not recommending any changes to that. And then again, we'll talk about the current development on the site. So, all right, so current zoning. To the north of the site, immediately adjacent is CR. And then north of that, R5. And then the site is surrounded on the east and west, and also the south with more recent land development districts. So looking at the site, abutting Singleton, this is one of the auto-related uses. This is the DISD maintenance facility. This is the site looking to the east, auto-related uses, and something that at one point had a certificate of occupancy for a private club, the doghouse. More auto-related. To the west, you'll see some of the existing single-family homes. Here's some new construction, a new single-family home, and then one that's in the process of being demolished, where it was when I visited. So, and I'll just, I guess, take a moment to explain right here with this new single-family home on this lot. So, as I mentioned, the majority of the site is owned IR, which allows for some somewhat intense industrial uses and does not allow for single-family. So, the single-family homes that exist are considered conforming. New development of single family or new construction isn't allowed under the current zone. So to allow this single family property to be developed, they did seek a zoning change, and they did it by the applicant requested an MU1 district and then deed restricted it down to only single family uses. Right? It seems like a very cumbersome process to get what we want in the city, right? Creative. So one reason probably the main reason they chose the MU1 is because it allows single family with no minimum lot size. So as I mentioned, the area of request is platted. The lots are all of a size, they're smaller than any of our base ARC districts. So we currently don't have a zoning district that would fit the existing lot pattern. So the site looking, this is when you're on Chicago and looking west, a mix of the non-residential uses, more established single family, and then looking to the east, this is the area that's currently undeveloped and is zoned for the plan development. So looking in at the area, kind of more of the same surrounding the site, we talk about that. So looking north, single families, to the east, this is the new development on Singleton, this is kind of the new, now predominant development pattern. Same to the south, this is a single family, project. And then to the west, more single family reconstruction and some existing, non-residential uses. So this zoning change, it seeks to address land use incompatibilities such as the industrial, that would be permitted under the current zoning and the existing single-family homes. This zoning recommendation seeks to retain and codify the existing lot sizes. That was the preference of the community to kind of formalize what's there, allow for redevelopment or development with new single family without having to replat. But then also this kind of helps retain the existing lot pattern so we don't get a lot of consolidation of lots and big out of scale single family. So this would allow for infill development, as some of the commissioners mentioned the need for. But it's still, we've proposed some simple design standards to kind of help with compatibility of new single family. So hopefully this will ensure compatible scale and then also promote some redevelopment along Singleton Boulevard. The community did express that they would like to have some community serving, retail and non-residential uses that are at a scale and intensity that's compatible with the single family. So, what we're proposing is a little more complicated than I personally would like for it to be. I mean, it's simple, yet using zoning tools we currently have available, we had to go the PD route with several sub areas. So I don't love that, but it does accomplish what the community had hoped to see. We've got the sub area 1, which is based on CR. So it would allow some, restaurants and community serving retail, but we are proposing some conditions to kind of mirror the plan development district conditions on either side of it. So 7-foot sidewalks with the planting strip, some changes in concrete where the driveways intersect the sidewalks. So looking out for our pedestrians with some pedestrian scale lighting. And then the rest of the sub-districts will allow for single family and those uses that are allowed in R5. So, childcare by SUP, schools by SUP. So these are the development standards. It's probably kind of hard to see here, but just in case we need to refer back to that slide. So to ensure compatibility, new construction, single family with existing, we are recommending that roofs must be hip and gable with a minimum of 412 pitch. This will prevent those large, bulky, flat roof structures that we're seeing so much of these days. So that would fit with the roof pitch that exists in the neighborhood. And then kind of taking into account impervious surfaces, since we're working on that amendment kind of simultaneously, also to help with scale and not promoting a whole lot of extra impervious surfaces, giant driveways in front of the houses. These are recommendations, not required, but we would recommend ribbon style driveways, co-located driveways where possible. We are proposing or recommending maximum driveway widths. That's all detailed in the conditions. And then 1 driveway curb cut per lot, so we're not seeing those circular drives with 2 curb cuts and the whole front yard is paved. So not hoping to get that. And then I got ahead of myself a little bit. I was so excited about these design standards for Singleton, so we touched on those: street trees, sidewalks, and marked pedestrian crossings. So, I guess that's it. Okay, sorry, as I said, I haven't done this in a while, but, so staff is recommending approval of this, plan development district, for community retail district uses and R5A single family district uses, subject to conditions, that are included in the report, and then we are recommending no change to PDOs.
Thank you so much, Ms. Palmer. Question, Commissioner Rubin.
Commissioner Carter has questions first. Okay, just one quick question. Obviously, this is very different from WOCAP in a lot of ways, but one similarity that I see is that there are voices at the table that in both these items that are interested in preserving single-family zoning. In WOCAP, I think what we heard was single-family plus ADU by right. Was there any discussion of allowing ADU by right in any of these?
So to be honest, I'm coming in at the tail end of this. I wasn't at the community meetings. The commissioner might be able to answer that question.
There wasn't any discussion.
Okay.
You're pretty small.
Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Bigger.
It was for E.
I heard the question, I didn't hear. Oh, no, so there was not any discussion of that. The lots are pretty small.
Yeah.
That's all. Commissioner Sanders.
Yes, going to the lots are small, you said that it didn't qualify the whole thing for a residential overlay kind of determination. What are the sizes of lots?
Yes, okay, so yeah, none of our existing R districts, R5, which is 5,000 square feet, R75 is 7,500 square feet. A townhome district may have gotten there, but leading up to the answer, but yeah, the lot sizes actually are quite small. So, the conditions that we're proposing kind of take into account for each tract, each sub area, kind of the smallest lot and then the largest end of it, and putting a cap, a maximum lot size, which is kind of unusual, but we're hoping to help retain the existing lot pattern. So as I mentioned, we don't get 10,000 square foot lots. Okay,
So the PD will make it, because I think that's very important, that we don't end up with an L Thicket situation. The PD will make it to where you couldn't go to planning and take two of these lots.
Yes.
And make a large one and put a big house on it.
Exactly. So just for example, sub area 2, the minimum lot size is 2,600 square feet, and then the max proposed or recommended is 3,730, so 3,730. That kind of, captured the largest lot in the tract. So
Yeah, that's interesting to me because that sub area 2 kind of juts in to the CS area. How are you envisioning?
yeah,
You see what
so
I'm saying?
yeah, and I'm trying to. That's a great question. That's existing.
And I'm not saying that you can't have, because just everything, you have townhouses,
Yeah.
it's a retail area, but I was just curious how you were envisioning.
Yeah, so it is, and I don't know if the commissioner looks like she maybe wanted to say, okay, so I'll take a stab at it. She add anything or ask a question and follow up. So the R-based districts do allow for protections when it comes to residential adjacency. So, if sub-area 1 redevelops, there will be buffers required and things to help that are already in the code.
Okay, so that would be in there. Yes, my last question is this. I noticed that, and I'm assuming you can put it as a question, is it because they're already existing industrial there? I noticed there's still a sub-district that's IR. Why is
that? Yeah, that's actually, okay. So that's not what's being proposed. It looks like this proposed change map was placed on top of the underlying zoning. So if this is approved today, there will be no longer IR zoning. I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It looks
I
like
do.
the sub-area 5 is IR. So is that a mistake?
Well, yeah, like I said, this has been overlaid on the existing zoning. So the existing zoning, districts are showing through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
that is, the baby blue is not meant to be
The baby-
IR, to indicate IR.
Correct.
They
Yeah.
include something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, no, great question.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Commissioner? Yes, Commissioner Herbert?
Yeah, so I noticed one of the newer additions on Chicago is pretty tall compared to the houses next to it, and it doesn't seem like it's roof is pitched. Or are they gonna be out of compliance once we approve this, if we approve this, or, and are the other neighbors gonna be protected by this slope proximity? Slope?
Yeah, so, to answer that question, everything on the ground that was built legally prior to this zoning, if it's approved, becomes non-conforming. So anything that's there, oh yeah, I think that's an interesting, is, well, I did say something that I shouldn't say, but, I'm not gonna stick to the question, yeah, it should become non-conforming. And then regarding residential proximity slope, so, RPS isn't applicable within the residential zoning district, so it doesn't protect residential homes from each other. But we are proposing, I'm trying to find it here to help with compatibility.
What is your height?
So the height limit is the base zoning, I believe it's 30. Yeah, and so the 30 foot of the R5 district would be applicable. And then with this minor pitch in the roof, hopefully that'll make a little bit of difference.
Okay, Commissioner Treadway, Wheeler,
Just a procedural question, since you're not making any changes to PD 1081, does everything else get a new PD number, or will the whole thing get a brand new PD number, including 1081?
Right, we're not proposing changes to 1081, so since it was already included within the boundary prior to its changing, we're just leaving it alone. It'll stay 1081, and then everything else in the authorized hearing area will become new PD. Thank you.
Commissioner Wheeler?
So are you saying the current residential uses in that area will become non-conforming?
No, they will actually be made legal. They used to be made legal, but since we do have a design standard that wasn't there at the time it was developed, the existing homes, well, the one specifically that we were looking at with a more flat roof would be made non-conforming just as to the roof pitch. That's not required.
And so we can't protect those options, protect those properties. So as long as they're built.
Right.
But if they were to tear down.
Yeah.
So they're legally non-conforming, and we can't protect them.
What would we be protecting them from? I guess just so I can
Because they're
understand.
non-conforming.
Well, right, so yeah, they can exist for all eternity, but they just, and if destroyed by an unintentional act, they can rebuild what's there. Just if somebody were to scrape the lot and rebuild, they would need to comply with the new requirements, which include that roof pit. Yeah.
It's a complicated.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Commissioner,
I woke up when you mentioned residential proximity. Yes, it's either in the timer or.
Yeah.
Am I right? Say on page 1312 for sub-area 1, the yard lot and space regulations for the CR Community Retail District apply. That includes a proximity slope. So my question, I guess, is will sub-areas 2 through 5 be subject to a proximity slope generated by sub-area 1? Or does the rule that? Stop that.
That it must be explicitly stated.
Well, it doesn't say explicitly stated.
Oh, okay.
And what does it say at the beginning of the PD? It's considered to be non-residential or mixed use or something?
Yes, so it prefers they. Yeah.
Oh, so each sub-area is different.
Yeah, sub-area 1 is non-residential, sub-areas 2 through 5 are residential.
And then they default to
Well,
a
it's
zoning district.
pretty clear to me that sub-area 1. Oh, no, I don't want to say that.
Point of clarification.
Please, Coach.
Mr. Moore, on page 1310 of the report, says sub-area 1 is considered to be non-residential zoning district. Sub-areas 2, 3, 4 considered to be residential. So sub-area 1 would be R is the base, it's sites and condition for RPS, 2, 3, 4.
It would be, but the question is, are sub-areas 2 through 5 districts of application, if you will?
I think the RPS would apply to sub-area 1.
Who would be generated by sub-area 1?
Yeah.
Okay, so sub-area 2 through 5 is not a proximity flow affecting sub-area 1.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any last questions, commissioners? Okay, please, Commissioner Austin.
Is it the home, I'm trying to read the address. Is it the home at 4814 Chicago that would become non-conforming? Or are we talking about a different? That one?
Yes. Yeah, right, and. Okay, I knew I should have started. No, I shouldn't start the book here, but I just cannot keep this to myself at this point. So actually, I was doing research and I did notice that that permit was never final. So there are people living there, but so anyway, I'm not code compliant, but I did notice that. But
It's the answer to my question, it's just the one that would be. Yeah.
if it were, yes, legal. If that makes a little bit of a pitch, whether that's 412, it's probably not, but there's a possibility that could become.
I mean, those
Does the body believe it's possible to hurt the feelings of an architect?
May I ask something about the RPS discussion? So we were intending that it would be applicable. If we need to make clarifications, we can. The only concern is, so we're recommending a maximum of 2 stories for the non-residential district. So the question is just kind of, since we did mention a height-related thing, does that in any way negate RPS? So it was the intent for RPS to apply.
Stories are a different thing.
Okay.
You have a follow-up, but if it's 2 stories, how do you get it? Losing that.
30 feet. Yeah.
Commissioner Weagley, last question.
So I was concerned, differently because I was thinking of the other housing, but so those are, so what do we do? Because that's a normal bill, some of the normal bills for the whole state, that one, the way those are for people.
Well, right, so this, as a commission, you guys could recommend that we don't include the roof pitch. That was just a recommendation made by staff.
And I'm asking that because those are one of the designs that are prominent in Dallas.
It is, and I mentioned, like in this, in the 10th Street area, the pitch of the roof is stored for the properties in the area, right? And a lot of the homes here have a pitched roof, and it looks, I think the purpose here, so that it can look similar to those other homes. So this area has a lot of pitched roofs that exist, So I would understand why it would be in the condition.
So when you look at that, right, when you go into the whole area, they have that quite a bit. Well, the one you just showed. They have those off and ons.
This is just one.
Yeah, but it has similar throughout the district that doesn't have that pitch.
So in this area of selection, there isn't one. But I do see this build out across District 4 and District 7 and District 3.
In terms of roles, had something that was out this weekend, and pictures wasn't there almost.
And it's my understanding that the community wanted to retain the pitched roofs.
Commissioners, let's go ahead and, or take our lunch break now. It's 11:55. We'll come back and pick up the last two zoning cases. Let's take a 20-minute break.
Wait a minute.
And we are recording, commissioners. It is 12:24. We're back on the record. We'll go back and pick up the last two zoning cases, beginning with case number 11. As far as while we're waiting for the stars, and just an FYI, commissioners, our first registered speaker may be a funny one. So maybe just consider not engaging.
Repeat that, repeat that.
Look at the list of speakers, so just an FYI.
So item number 11 is KZ 223151. The request is an amendment to specific use permit number 2215 for the sale of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with a general merchandise or food store 3,000 square feet or less on property zoned in RRG1 Regional Retail District with a D1 liquor control overlay. The purpose of the request is to continue to sell alcohol for off-premises consumption in conjunction with the existing convenience store Raceway, located at the southwest corner of North Jim Miller Road and East RL Thornton Freeways. So the location is on the east of Dallas. It's in the corner of ERL Thornton and Jim Miller. So uses around the area. There is existing a restaurant with drive-through service along the north across Thornton Freeway, and then as well as adjacent to the west and to the south. And then there's a general merchandise store, a fueling station across Jim Miller to the east, and then a restaurant with drive-through service as well to the east. The existing 2,436 square foot convenience store was constructed in 2005, according to the Dallas Central Prison District. The existing gas canopy was originally constructed in 1985. On November 2016, City Council approved SUP number 2215 for the sale of alcoholic beverages in conjunction with a general merchandise or food store, 3,500 square feet or less for a 2-year period. And then on April of 2019, City Council approved the renewal of the SUP for a 1-year period. And then on May 2020, City Council approved the renewal of the SUP for a 3-year period. The SUP expired May 27, 2023. On June 15 of this year, the store passed inspections and is in compliance with Chapter 12B of the Dallas City Code for Convenience Stores. It has site photos of the area. On the side looking north, on the side looking east, looking south, looking west, and then looking northwest, and then surrounding uses, looking towards the north, towards the east, on Jim Miller Road looking southeast, and then looking south, and then southwest, and then towards the west, and then northwest as well. And then the existing site plan, there's no changes being proposed. And then the conditions are The use site plan and when the specific use permit expires, 3 years from the passage of this ordinance. And then status of approval, for a 3-year period subject to revised conditions.
Thank you very much. Questions, Commissioners? Yes, please.
So since their current one has expired, do they continue operating under it because they had already started the process?
That's correct. Yeah, they need to file for renewal of the SUP before the original one expires. But it doesn't necessarily have to actually be renewed by council before the original SUP expires.
Okay, so they need to operate. Is there a reason why this isn't auto renewed?
I'm not sure. I know it's been renewed several times in the past, and I think most of those renewals were without auto renewal. I think the staff made a recommendation following that pattern. Of course, the commission can always vote to add auto renewal.
Don't we have other alcohol permits that are auto renewed?
Yes, we do have some that are auto renewal and some.
If I had to guess, looking at the design of this neighborhood and knowing the area, about a mile up is a liquor corridor. There are several liquor stores. This is the only one there that's next door to the Alcohol Anonymous.
Commissioner Wheeler.
So, would the reason be is because that at one time that was a dry area? And that's the reason why, that's part of the reason why, and that was, and also because the community usually wants to be able to be involved and don't necessarily want auto renewal.
Right, so it's in a D1 liquor control overlay, which requires alcohol sales by SUP. If it was in a D liquor control overlay, it would just prohibit alcohol sales. But the D and D1 overlays were added to various, sorry, it's a little funny, various corridors throughout the city. I don't remember one, to kind of control the sale of alcohol.
So corridor is in a different area of that. Considering you know somehow it's a different area.
Those are both overlays.
Commissioner Young.
Are you aware that in 2016, when I stepped in to handle this case originally for D7, there was an issue with illegal 8-liners on the premises, and that may have had something to do with the, at least the initial period, not having auto renewals.
Illegal what?
The initial period not having auto renewals. 8-liners,
What are 8-liners?
they're gambling devices.
How they feel that?
I'm not,
Still there? I'll put that question to the case planner.
I'm not aware, the only things I did see from the previous cases was that staff would recommend auto renewal, but when you go to CPC would recommend just like a 2-year, 3-year.
Yes, Commissioner Hurd.
Is there any, do we have any control of video poker machines being on site at these gas stations?
That's not really under consideration with this case. The only thing that's under consideration with these SUPs for alcohol sales is if it's appropriate for the applicant to sell alcohol at the location. Anything to do with gambling machines and all that kind of stuff would not be within the scope of staff's analysis.
So don't we look at crime statistics?
So staff does not consider area crime in their analysis. Again, our analysis is always zoning and land use. However, in our report, on a very intentional separate page, we do include crime stats from the police department, usually for the time period since the last SUP was approved. We don't comment on it, it's not part of our analysis, but we do provide it for the consideration of the commissioners.
Mr. Mulkey, are you aware that there are a couple of districts where the council members have expressed their disdain for 8-liners, and in fact, the market has responded by not applying for an SUP in where those 8-liners are present on site?
I'm not aware of that, and I'm gonna kick it to Dan.
May I ask you? If you have one criminal activity that you're not allowed to have, and yet you're applying to do something legally, that's okay?
You have one concern.
Well, let's just say you have something that you're not permitted from having cover machines.
Yeah, again, all of this is beyond the scope of this case and staff's analysis. The only thing we're considering is that the sale of alcohol at this location is appropriate.
Just Commissioner Standard.
Standpoint, then you apply.
Yeah, Commissioner Standard, just to be clear to your question, I may be able to answer it. Is it true that although that's not a, that some of these eight liners fall within the rules of within the law because of the way that they pay out? In fact, they're not technically illegal because they have a different way that they pay out the player.
It's another like, there's like,
Okay.
if they're illegal, like there's force of action that both of ones can be,
So,
related with this.
Commissioner Leo.
so is it true that there is two neighborhood associations, or for this, those neighborhood associations are definitely monitor their area well? Those, was there any support level for those two neighborhood associations?
Sure, I mean, that would be more the purview of the district commissioner, to be the representative for their community. I can kick it to the case planner to see if she's received any.
Were there, support from two of the neighborhood associations, one being Buckman Terrace and the other one FRI, which is a coalition of neighborhood associations?
I'm not sure. I'll need to confirm that part of the case. I did receive letters, but I will reconfirm who they were.
Did they work from FRI, which is a coalition of neighborhood associations in the area, and Buckman Terrace, who originally filed this application?
Any other questions, Commissioner Standard?
Yes, I have a technical question, since we don't have a definition under the code. Why do they call poker machines eight liners?
But it's not the.
No idea.
Does anyone know? And I don't think like, some of our land uses and operations, I don't know. Poker machines. I was reading the stations.
Selling alcohol, I think.
I just don't know what eight liners.
Why? That's not the key. Google has seen. Google.
Just wanted to clarify. Now I read the
Okay.
letter. My question was.
We're moving on, Commissioners. We're one last case, number 12. Ms. Walker?
Thank you.
This is item C 223-293. And it is it's an application for an amendment to plan development district number 994. And it's approximately 7.6 acres. And it is south and to the west just a little bit of downtown in District 4. And it is, it's property bound by Lancaster on the east. On the north is Paducah. On the west is Denley, and south is Amherst. It's surrounded by, on the east side of Lancaster is CR zoning with a lot of community retail and personal service. There's funeral homes, water-related uses. On the north, which is to the north of the area along Paducah, is CR community retail, and some R75, which again has personal service, unrelated use, retail. There is that in the R75 area, there's single family and
church and some vacant properties. To the west is zone R75, it's R75 and TH zoning with an SUP for a childcare facility, which you can see just at the southwest. And then south of the property along is Ann Arbor, we've got R75 and CR zoning with, again, church, some vacant properties, and some retail. So there's some background. PD number 4 was established in August 23rd of 2017. And it allows for R75 uses except for R75 uses except a public school other than an open enrollment charter school is allowed by right. Then, and so that is on the site is the existing Holland Elementary School, the ISD, which has been in operation on the property for a while. The current request, so the current request seeks to correct previous zoning case that was approved in May 12th of 2021, in which the development plan was in conflict with the article, the text of the article. So this came to light when the applicant submitted for a minor amendment to the development plan. They were at permitting and the prints and things were matched up. So we took it in as a minor and started looking at it and realized that the development plan did not meet the text of the article. So they had to then see it and for a full zoning amendment to amend the development plan itself. So the updates to the text are intended to bring the development plan and the text in concert. And those updates are specify front yard and front setbacks. Allow for 2 of the 4 front yards, allow parking, existing parking to remain, and allow the existing fences and sliding vehicular gates that are existing to remain within the visibility tract. Then the aspects of the development plan are amended to show the correct setbacks and to be in concert with the text of the article. The landscape plan is being amended in order to be in concert with the development plan. And then the TMP, which is an exhibit as well, is being amended to reflect the development plan, and then this are sidewalk improvements. Slides. So we're going to take a tour of the side clockwise. So this is standing across Lancaster, looking towards the Holland Elementary, towards the corner of Paducah and Lancaster. This is a straight across Lancaster to the school. And as you'll see, there's quite a bit of construction already going on. And here we're looking at the southeast pillar of the school. And then this is the long end. This is the south side along the arc of the school. Again, across. And we turn on to Denley, that's the Denley, and the school is to the right. So you can see there's a lot of sponsors around. This is on Denley, that's into the back of the school. About the corner of Denley and Paducah Ground, the school. We're going to this one to do that school, it's to the right. Again, we're still on the there. So spin. Surrounding uses. So this is the corner of Lancaster and New looking across at the related uses. This one of Lancaster, which again is service retail uses. You are related uses directly. Standing on Lancaster, looking towards the corner of the school, Paducah and Lancaster. We're headed west on Paducah. This is the single family that is to the north. And church. Now we have moved to Denley. South on Denley, and to the west is the church in Singapore. And then we get to the corner, we've got a chocolate facility. And that is moving along Ann Arbor on the south side of the school. We come to the office and retail. And there's vacant properties. And this is the office. And we get to this is the existing.
I mean, as far as, how
Yes.
many more slides do we get?
I'm sorry?
How many more slides do we have?
Oh, I'm really fast.
Yeah, we need to wrap it up. No, if you wanna, if there's more, we can just continue with the horseshoe. So let's just go ahead and table the item for the moment. Commissioner will begin as the horseshoe on this item. It is 12:46, and that concludes the briefing of the Dallas City Planning Commission. Let's go right out to the end of it, please.